We're now here in the gallery where we're talking about David's experience in conservation and particularly his work with tigers. So you were telling me a little bit about this picture, which has a really interesting story.
Tiger Fire, of which that's a copy print, was the first major conservation issue I took part in I think can we check on the timing? Somewhere in 1970, when Project Tiger was launched by the World Wildlife Fund. This is before I had my own charity. When the tiger numbers, I gather, in India in those days was round to about 1,800, even less than around now.
Yeah.
So Project Tiger was launched, and I thought, well, I'll take part and do a tiger painting, my first, because I'd never painted a tiger. Went to India to try and find a wild tiger, and I couldn't, so I came home again and went down to Howlett's, Port Lim, John Aspinall's place. John Aspinall, I have to say, of anybody I've ever met, was more violently in favour of wildlife and conservation than he was with people. He was even asked by the local press, you know, if you had just two tigers capable of breeding out of the entire number, or your daughter, who would you sacrifice? And he said, my daughter, of course.
Really?
And you can cut that story, I don't think it's relevant.
It's interesting to hear.
No, the point was that I'd been to India, so I came home again and met John Aspinall. He said, well, you can go in and meet Zarif. And I said, who's Zarif? A male Siberian tiger. And I said, what do you mean go in with him? Oh, he's quite friendly. He'll just play a game with you. Now, having thought about this many years later, the Health and Safety Act would go bananas, and so would I. The very thought that I went in there on my own and started playing with that monster cat. Never gave it a thought. Anyway, in I went into it, because John said he's quite friendly. When he's met you, he'll just start playing with you. And that playing with you could well take off your right arm and your leg as well. Anyway, I went into the enclosure and the door clanged behind me. And I turned around and saw that John was still outside, leaving me inside with Zarif. And he said, and I said, what do you do? What am I going to do? He said, just stand still while he gets to know you. Okay. And I was still none the wiser, because I didn't know what that meant. And anyway, he came storming across and came right up to me. And I'm standing there just, God knows. And he promptly rolled over and went fast asleep. And I rubbed his tummy. And John was delighted, of course. And so John now comes in, and I said, to join me, and I said, now how are we going to make this tiger do anything except go to sleep? Because I want to get that fiery quality that is unbelievably wonderful in it. He said, well, I'll tell you what we do, we haven't fed him for 10 days. To which I said, I wish you'd told me that before I went in there. And so he then woke up, and I was stroking him, and you could have heard him 20 miles away purring after he was just a big, lovely, friendly cat. And so John said, well, what we'll do is we'll give him oh, by the way, I missed the bit that just makes it even more interesting, because when he got to know me, he was marking his territory as he would in India. And he peed all the way down my left leg. It was rather unpleasant, actually. My car stank of tiger urine for about a month.
It's a rite of passage.
The rite of passage, yes, absolutely. Anyway, we got him in a nice mood. And so he was settling down, and John said, well, look, we'll give him a piece of meat, and we'll do a countdown, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And on 1, I will take the meat away from him, and you can take the photograph. And I was only about 6 feet away from him, just in front of me, as close as you are. Okay, are you ready? By this time, I was beyond help. I was so and 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And nothing happened. The tiger simply said, can I have my lunch back? And I'm mentioning all this because it's relevant. We have this extraordinary, awful impression that animals are dangerous. The only dangerous animal is on this planet, us. That tiger was not dangerous, he was perfectly friendly. But it took 5 goes to get him to snarl, because he wanted his dinner. And that painting raised £127,000. We had a lucky number, we ran off 850 copies of it. I can't remember what the retail price was, but it raised all that money. And one print had a lucky number on it, and that person got the original.
Oh, fantastic.
It's now hanging in New York.
Oh, wow. So as we were discussing, the fact that the art is meant to bring attention to the conservation issues.
Yeah.
And moving forward, you've taken on everything from elephant conservation to tiger conservation. What do you see moving forward is the future of conservation? What's the biggest issue that we need to tackle?
Very simple answer, education.
Right.
And there's a good example of this. We've got to convince the children of Zambia and Tanganyika and gosh, that old-fashioned Tanganyika, sorry, that slipped in. Why not? And their wildlife is of infinite value to them through ecotourism, if left alone and left to be free in the wild, instead of poaching to provide people who have this strange idea that Chinese medicine will gain if you've got a gallbladder complaint or whatever, rhino horn, or you know all this.
Yeah.
So their wildlife is more valuable alive than dead, so stop the poaching.